Thanks for having me. I'd like to talk about generative AI and especially large foundation models and how this is supposed to transform industries beyond what we see currently with ChatGPT. I will talk about two things. I believe that foundation models, and those are not only language models, are not necessarily very large going forward. I also argue that ChatGPT was just a surprise, actually, in technology, a step backwards that was very successful, as Sam Altman confirmed in Munich, for the reason that the user interface was so simple, and it wasn't really the big game changer, while technologies much better already were available behind the scenes. So in summary, ChatGPT was for AI what the World Wide Web was for the internet. It was a very simple and accessible interface to something that was previously only used by scientists and specialists, and so democratized the technology for everyone, and that was what we have seen. The economic progression in the IT industry started with a hardware revolution in the 1950s, where only one company, IBM, sold hardware computers to probably 5 insurance companies or banks. The value for the user wasn't really very big. And also, it didn't kill any jobs because they had to hire more people to maintain and work with the computer, while the original workforce was still busy with the tasks there was headed. So it took very, very long until computers improved productivity. The software business was different a little bit because software was way more available, and then together later with the PC, usable by a much broader audience, and such, the value was increasingly pushed towards end users, and those increasingly weren't only companies and corporations, but also private users, and as such, software businesses enabled things like small software companies or open source. Big data, maybe starting with Google, again, was very different because in the beginning, it pushed all the value towards the user and none was retained for Google. And increasingly so with mobile devices, that especially affected the end users and created a lot of value for those people. Being first also a very, very simple interface. And I believe the 5th revolutionary phase is the age of machine intelligence, where we will see especially 3 transformative forces that will change everything, I believe. 3 transformative forces. One will be a new human-computer interface, being speech and text, and actual real and increasingly real understanding of what we are saying, and understanding and commands by complex text and prompts. This will be very, very different from what we had previously. Also, generative AI is finally breaking the productivity triangle. The productivity triangle said that for any given scope, you could only violate either time, cost, or quality to stay within that product or project triangle. Generative AI first is really breaking this, and you can achieve faster delivery at lower costs at a higher quality. Democratization and value will be put towards the user. I argued already about that. I think everyone can use chat technologies or speech and language technologies, use this as an interface to traverse the barrier between physical world and virtual world. But I also think it will be so usable and so simple and so ubiquitous available that generative AI technologies will put all the value towards the users, as we will see open models, we will see fit for purpose smaller models, and I think we will also see a lot of open source technologies. I think the only thing that can stop that is regulation put wrong. Why is this possible now? AI was coined as a term in the 1950s, actually 1956, Herbert A. Simon and John McCarthy at Carnegie Mellon and Harvard respectively used the term to define and specify how computers would achieve tasks only done so far by humans. And going forward, we saw many ups and downs and times of disappointment and disinvestment, so-called AI winters. But in the last 10 or so years, everything changed, or maybe it's the last 20 years, starting with the NVIDIA GPU and the GPU in general with big data, the deep learning models invented in 1986 were actually possible to implement, and a lot of innovation ever accelerated, and we saw more and more innovation leading towards what we see today. And what we'll continue to see is ever better AI and available AI and generative AI. And there's way more things to come, but I think the technology and science have been accelerating tremendously. What is the state of nation with AI and large language or foundation models? I think one thing is AI is not a hype and ChatGPT is not AI. So generative AI will, together with the overall AI, change businesses and will find its way into, I think, everything. We are already implementing hundreds of use cases with many, many companies, and we see significant changes and improvements. Also, we didn't reach AI, artificial general intelligence at all. So where we are currently is just a much better looking AI. And I think we basically learned two things. One is, and that's a very old statement, that that prediction has a lot to do with intelligence. Niels Bohr said that more than 100 years ago. And we also learned, I think, that language has less to do with intelligence than we thought. And it's very hard for some people to swallow, but it seems that we like language once it sounds good, and that's more statistical than an intelligence question. I also think the doomsday discussion is totally overblown. There are like three big real risks we need to tackle. There is a comparatively low risk, I believe, that it will kill jobs because the adoption of technology always takes much longer than we think. And especially in Europe, we don't have enough skilled workers. So it's actually coming just on time. I think also the problem that we will see is that fake information is generated even more than today. We still already see a lot of fake information, and this will be much easier to produce fake pictures, fake videos, and fake text and information. So those are real risks. And ultimately, I think we will find a way to control these risks. And I think it's already lying out how this will work. One statement, what we see a lot with clients and customers and companies is that we believe many people are using AI wrong, or especially generative AI, as they are using the foundation model as the database, which is a mistake. You should infuse and use and synthesize from trusted data that you create, which also leads towards using potentially much smaller models and reducing the amount of compute needed for that. And what's next? I think generative AI for sure will totally change the human computer interface, and that will be very good because what we have at the moment is not sufficient, but it will change way more things, especially in business, as we see on the next slide. Generative AI will, as I said, already create a very different user experience. That's true for employees, that's true for customers, it's true for everyone interacting with artificial general intelligence or with computers. And I think this will be also a game changer in the industry because talent will like to work for, again, maybe for companies who have the latest technology and possibilities available. I think it will also boost the creativity because the boring work and the boring tasks are largely outsourced to the AI. So for example, generating text, generating PowerPoints and such things. And then we see three business use case applications in general where we already see today significant changes. So first of all, we see a significant impact on the bottom line in terms of cost and productivity improvements. We see very simple tools moving the needle quite a bit, like knowledge lookup tools used at many companies, like content extraction, summarization, like the foundational generative AI use cases, but increasingly digital agents. We also see the possibility to improve the top line, i.e. create more business and sell more, make more money actually with your services. And there are various different opportunities. And just to put out one thing, that is, you can now use a generative AI to offer services to completely new user groups, to illiterate user groups, to people who don't want to read, to the Generation Z, or to people who need a lot of help in using technology, like elderly or what have you. And this is a big game changer going forward. The last is what everyone's looking at, killer apps or moonshots. This year we found already 3, and I can give you an idea how a moonshot looks in generative AI. And I think typically it is coming from the generative force of artificial intelligence we see now. So it's generating something, it's tackling proprietary data, where incumbents collected data and built data estates maybe over decades, and you can now generate that. The reason that's possible is actually that you don't need a lot of data to train a model, because the model is pre-trained. You can use, for example, one instance of a data set to create more of that in terms of synthetic data. What I think also we will see is, based on that idea, is fit-for-purpose models, smaller models, and smaller tech stacks without a lot of GPU usage. What also will be enabled is cross-industry applications, where we saw already a few, where we bring together 2 industries using digital technologies, which is a very transformative force. So thank you very much, and over to the Q&A.